My name is William Kellebrew, and I'm a victim, turned survivor, turned victim's advocate. And on July 2nd, 1984, my mother and brother were murdered in our living room by her estranged boyfriend. Marshall Brent Williams killed himself, but not before he had me beg for my life at 10 years old at gunpoint. This is my story. It's an eerie feeling to be back here. It just takes me back.
The tragedy began at mid-morning when a 10-year-old boy called police to report that a gunman was holding two members of his family in his home.
Well, that morning, Marshall was dragging my mother down the street here by both her wrists. And as it got about right here in front of the driveway, that's when I looked out of the front window and I saw them. I think that she was just abused all of her life. She was just always in domestic violence situation. And those things were continuing at a rapid pace, so it's all we saw when we grew up. Then I heard a knock on the door. Frantic banging. She just started yelling, call the police to everybody who was staring. Then Marshall turned his back to my mom and my brother, and he pulled out a black gun. He went straight over to my mother, and he put the gun to her face. My mother yelled at him, probably as loud as she could muster, and she just yelled no. She screamed no at him. And that was her last time because he pulled the trigger. She fell to the ground immediately. The blood just went everywhere from her mouth. I mean, she was just destroyed. And then Marshall went to my brother and he put the gun to Tony's face and then he shot him. The bullet went through his throat and it pierced the back of his neck. Because when he fell, this blood went over his head, onto our carpet, nonstop. I was in shock. Then he went back to my mom, and then he shot her again. I didn't have any other reason to think that I would survive in that room. But when Marshall walked over to me, he put the gun to my head, and he just put it right there. I wasted no time in putting my hands together and saying, please don't kill me, please don't kill me, I'll do anything. And he decides after a little while to say, you can leave. Call the police. This is where I started running, this space. No shoes on. And I ran all the way up this hill. Everybody's outside looking, everybody wondering what was going on. It took 2.5 hours to 3 hours for them to actually go in, shoot tear gas in, and go into her home.
When we got to the house, my son and myself, the street was surrounded with policemen. They didn't let me get nowhere near the house. They told me I got to go in there and check on my daughter. So then they start throwing tear gas.
Well, what did they say?
They said, Miss Horry, I said, I'm her mother. Can I go in and see what's going on with my daughter? They said, no, you can't come but so many feet near the house. So I had to wait out there and just waited and waited and waited.
And you didn't know
I had
what
no
had happened
idea.
in the house?
No, I did not. No, the only thing they know, he had her hostage with her child. I don't really like coming back around here anymore. Yeah. Stay away from here. Because I could see her arms hanging from the stretcher. I had to be in shock though, that they were still alive.
I've never been inside that house again. Being back here makes me wish that it never happened, that I didn't have to explain this story to everybody. Did I cry a lot?
You cried a lot, and you stayed to yourself. And the only thing that really kept you quiet, the little matchbox with the little cars, we used to play with those. It wasn't easy at all. We was just distraught, our whole family, you know.
Until at 13 years old, it was the end. I couldn't take it anymore. So the only way to get rid of it was to get rid of me. This was going to be the last time that I knew I was going to walk out of my home. And I walked to that bridge and I was going to jump. And when I looked over the bridge and the cars were coming, I said I would wait till those cars came and then I would jump. And I looked over and I know I saw the cars coming, as they usually do. And you know, something just came over me and don't know what it was, but it stopped me. I've been hospitalized over 9 times. Every time I had an anxiety attack, I would have panic attacks and anxiety attacks. I would go into deep depressions. I didn't want to take my life acutely. I didn't want to just kill myself, but it was living like I wanted to die. I worked on a lot of that in therapy, you know, how to feel good about me, and that took years and years and years. How do you feel about being here?
Right now, I don't feel as sad as I used to be because something is happening here of your life, of how far you have come.
It was a
To be
different.
able- it's different. It's
Yeah.
different. So I don't feel that sadness like I would normally feel.
It wasn't until I went back to college in my late 20s that I got involved with student government. And it's really where I found my wheel. It wasn't a block wheel, it was a round wheel, and I just started to roll. And I became the president for 2 years. And I think that my past helped to shape what I thought I could do for the most affected person. And then that would be the standard. I would support students, I would advocate, I would fight hard. I would fight hard for them. And that's where I became an advocate.
William's here. Oh.
I think the first time that you actually heard this story was on Oprah,
Yes.
when you had to sit there in that seat
I had to sit there in that seat because I didn't want to talk about it.
or didn't want to hear what
I
happened.
didn't want to hear. It took me a long time to actually hear what went on. I just, no.
How do you
and you
feel
were
about
there.
hearing that?
I'm stronger for it now. I'm a little stronger about it now.
The William Kelleher Foundation was founded by 2 professors at my university. They decided to start the William Kelleher Foundation in 2007 to provide educational opportunities for those who didn't have them. The foundation's mission has evolved since then, and it's become a resource to individuals and institutions committed to breaking the cycles of violence and poverty. Poverty playing a role in encouraging violence. They need somebody who they can trust and they know cares about their situation and cares about who they are. And I advocate for them. Hey! You know when you see somebody, you just, oops, you caught me, you keep me closer. Together, we stand together, we're stronger as a voice together. I'm so excited because I know we're doing something, you know, to save lives. We're giving voices today. And every day that we stand up, we're giving voice to those who cannot open their mouths and say it. And so we've got to speak loud, speak freely, and say what we feel today. I do work also in the public policy realm, where there are laws on the books that need to be changed.
I've come from that room at 10 years old, to this hill, to let Congress know that guns in the hands of people like Marshall Brent Williams do not belong. Please, I'm coming from that room to plead with you, to beg and to demand and to ask you.
I'm going to continue to advocate and be there for victims and survivors. I do have a sort of a testimony song, and it's an uplifting song, and I often sing it. It's become sort of my theme song. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I'm so thankful that I survived. I wasn't thankful before, but I'm so thankful now. But I know today that I add an amazing value to my family. I've added value to my job. I've added value to the efforts for victims and survivors. And I've added effort to this world. And I've added my piece. And if I die today or tomorrow, I know I've done the best that I could have ever done.